Hello, and welcome back to another installment of Nonviolent Resistance Training. I'm sharing information both from my own experience, but also from the Nonviolent Resistance Boot Camp that I went to a couple of weeks ago with a couple hundred other Oregonians. If you're interested in finding out more about future boot camps or how you can donate through the Act Blue account to the boot camp that we went to, and the materials from which I am sharing with you all for free, please go to resistancebootcamp.us. I really appreciate that folks want to click the thanks button and tip me on YouTube, but I would really ask if you get something out of this series, please go to that Act Blue link and throw that tip at Indivisible so that we can help organize more of these resistance boot camps all around the country. Nonviolent resistance is based very much around safety and solidarity. Again, our mantra for our local safety team is who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. And in that spirit, I think it's crucially important that we all know our rights. I see more often than not folks who want to kind of poo-poo nonviolent resistance, and they will say, well, don't you understand that law enforcement will be violent toward you? Yeah, we know that. Especially if you are looking at the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers who now work for ICE, they don't have training around the law. They don't have training around de-escalation. They have no intention of upholding your rights, and they have no intention of keeping you safe. In fact, I think they are looking for reasons to be able to brutalize you. They are looking for reasons to violate your rights. Not reasons any. They're looking for any excuse to violate your rights. They're hoping to manufacture a riot so that they can get footage for Kristi Noem and for the regime's propaganda. We know that nonviolent resistance is not a guarantee that law enforcement will be good to us, right? But we have to do what we can through our training and the kind of emotion regulation we engage in to keep each other as safe as possible under those circumstances. And along with that, it is crucially important that we learn what our rights are, because law enforcement, you would think that their name, law enforcement, that they would be experts on the law. Let's set ICE aside, right? Again, we know that they're untrained. We know that they're completely unqualified. We know that they are dysregulated. Let's take traditional law enforcement. They are not an expert on the law. They often don't know it as well as you do. And we need to make sure that we learn what our rights are, especially around protests. We have to become better experts on the law, on our own rights, than law enforcement. Knowing your rights is a crucial way that we help keep each other safe. And you might say, like, well, what does it matter if law enforcement doesn't know what your rights are and they don't have any intention of upholding those rights? Well, it matters. I'm going to show you a video clip in just a second to explain what I mean. At the very least, it's crucial that you know your rights inside and out, because law enforcement is allowed to lie to you. I know that really sucks, but they don't have to tell you the truth. I'm always trying to direct folks to the ACLU's Know Your Rights trainings. In particular, if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, I'll have all the links in the video description. In particular, they have a section on protesters' rights. They have a protest rights guide. It is a free guide for activists that helps you understand what you are legally allowed to do at a protest and how to uphold your First Amendment rights. Again, knowing your rights is not a guarantee that law enforcement will not try to violate those rights. It's not a guarantee that you won't get arrested for doing absolutely nothing illegal and that they won't try and bring you up on charges. I said in an earlier video when I talked about the 6 Ds of de-escalation, how one of those is documentation. And also that's a really important role for any kind of nonviolent direct action. Your affinity group needs to have somebody who is documenting, preferably multiple somebodies who are filming everything that is happening. And also taking contemporaneous notes right after the fact, pen and paper, write it out, what the incident was, date it. Contemporaneous notes are admissible in court. So sometimes it's important that we know our rights so we can make sure that we get justice afterward. It doesn't always prevent us from being protected in the moment. But sometimes it really, really can, especially if you are confident in expressing what your rights are and what is legal and what is illegal. Now, I want to show you a clip. I believe this is from Los Angeles that really illustrates why it is so crucial in the moment to know your rights and then to articulate those rights clearly to law enforcement.
You're not supposed to use your weapon legal unless you're in immediate danger. You are not in immediate danger. Put your weapon down. Put it down.
I just want to say never underestimate the power of a woman using a mom voice to tell law enforcement, you can't do that. This is a violation of our rights. Put your weapon down. Maybe this is my years of experience as a roller derby official speaking here, but there is a power in having your mom voice on, speaking authoritatively and saying, no, son, you don't get to do that. Right. I don't know who that woman in that video was, but mad props to her for saying, put your weapon down, and then telling him what the law is. You could just see how agitated they are. Law enforcement, y'all, I believe that's LAPD, but law enforcement in general, and again, especially ICE, they don't really have the skills, they don't have the emotion regulation to handle these protests. I know that regular police say that they're trained to handle de-escalation, to be equipped to de-escalate a situation. That motherfucker right there was about to escalate that completely legal, non-violent protest. Now, that person in the video was saying you're not allowed to fire on us with less lethals unless you are in immediate danger. I am not sure off the top of my head if that is just a law in LA or California, or if that is something greater. And this brings me to my next point, which is that it's not just our constitutional rights that we need to know, it's also our local and state laws. We need to know what local law enforcement is allowed to do. For example, in Portland, after the 2020 protests that we had here, Portland police are no longer allowed to shoot tear gas and other let's call it what it is, chemical agents, chemical warfare at unarmed protesters. What you saw in that situation, that guy's like, he's freaking the fuck out over Americans standing and using their words. Yeah, people are being loud. His immediate thought was like what? He's going to harm them? Now, we are seeing at the ICE facility here in Portland on a nightly basis that people who are just using their words are being brutalized by ICE, both with tear gas and with rubber bullets, but also with their bodies, right? People are being slammed to the ground over and over again. But I don't want you to discount the power of being able to verbalize what your rights are when you see law enforcement doing something they're not allowed to do, communicating that out loud and making sure it is documented, get it on film. And it's also really important that when you do these know your rights training, like any of the non-violent tactics that I talk about, any of the de-escalation skills, you're in a situation where the stress level is really high, and we know that cops are freaking out and they are full in their emotion mind, right? They're not really able to access rational thought in the moment. We've seen so many instances of ICE in particular flipping out because they're really scared. They're really scared and they are not properly trained. They do not have the emotion regulation skills. They do not have the training. They are not capable of handling the situations that they are put in. They are not competent to have that position, and yet they are put somewhere with less lethal or entirely lethal weapons against unarmed Americans exercising our constitutional rights. And they don't know those rights like we do. We have to verbalize them. And I've seen a number of videos over the last few days from attorneys talking about where ICE does and does not have qualified immunity, where law enforcement does and does not have qualified immunity, and just getting them to think for a second, like, what am I doing? Is this something I could get in real trouble for? Let them know, this is being filmed. You are breaking the law. You are not allowed to do that. Put your weapon down. You don't have the right to do this. This is violating the law. Because they don't know your rights as well as you do, being assertive and communicating those rights very clearly. When they're already second guessing, like, oh shit, can I actually do this thing that I want to do? Is this going to get me in trouble? Am I going to be in trouble? You being an authoritative voice, that may be enough to get them to back down, to think twice about violating your rights. I really want to encourage you to take the time and do a know your rights training for protesters. I think Indivisible has one, ACLU has one. There are state versions wherever you are. The Oregon Justice Resource Center has one for us here. Become informed. Knowledge is power. When we know more than law enforcement, we have a particular kind of power in a scenario where we are up against them. And it is a kind of power that we can use to increase the ways that we can keep each other safe. Knowing your rights and articulating your rights can de-escalate a situation because you're telling law enforcement you can't do this violent, brutal thing that you want to do, and they may well listen to you, and it may help take the temperature down. Protect yourself and everybody else. So please, please, please take some time and get a know your rights training. You'll be better prepared to protect yourself, the people you're with, and you'll be better able to keep your focus in the moment when the tensions are running really high.